Hi guys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Kook Shed, my own little YouTube channel where I share tips and handy hints and reviews all to do with surfing and bodyboarding, stuff like that I think you might enjoy, that might come in handy and help you have more fun and enjoy life. So today we are going to do a little review on this funny looking board, the Meyerhoffer. Now I think when this board came out it was just called the Meyerhoffer. It wasn't, I don't think it actually had a model name because it was his first board, Meyerhoffer's first board, so it was just called the Meyerhoffer as far as I know. Later on he brought out another one, a newer one called the XYZ or XYZ if you're American, and that was pretty much an updated version of this shape. So what we've got, this one is 7'6", but you can get them in different sizes. You can get them like in a 9 foot as well, a 9 foot length. But so what you've got here is a very unique shape for a longboard. And I get asked a lot about it down the beach, and you know, when I've got it, when I'm getting changed near the car, I get a lot of people asking me about this board and wanting to know more about it. So that's why I thought I'd do a review. So this guy Meyerhoffer, he's a designer. He designs things for big companies like Audi, Apple, things like that. So he's quite creative, thinks a little bit laterally, and he also surfs. So he rides longboards, and he wanted to design a longboard that rode how he wanted it to. There was a couple of drawbacks of a standard longboard shape that he wasn't happy with, so he went and designed his own. And as you can see, he's come up with something quite different. Basically, it's an upside down Coke bottle shape. You've got this hip in the middle here, and then you've got this very narrow tail here. It comes down to a sort of very pointed tail for a longboard. It's goes down to quite a narrow tail. So, also very round, very round nose as well. A lot of surface area up there. So as far as I can tell, what this does is it allows you can still walk up the board and do a lot of nose riding if you wish. You can stand on down at the rear end of the board and ride it like a shortboard. Thanks to this cutout here, the only rail in the water a lot of the time when you're riding at the rear of the board is from about here to down there. This bit is not in the water. Because of this cutout, it actually allows for less drag, and it makes the board perform more like a shortboard. Its turns can be less drawn out, I've found, and I also think it makes it a little bit faster because there's less drag, maybe less rail in the water here. Like that's a fair chunk to cut away that's not in contact with the water anymore when you're surfing it on the back. I believe it reduces drag. So then you can also run up the front and stand and do some nose riding, stuff like that. But also this really large volume nose, it helps get into the waves earlier. It helps the water go underneath quicker as you're paddling. It really helps the board paddle really well, and it adds to the balance too. So because this board can be quite narrow here and at the tail, that front just sort of, that width there sort of just stops it sort of toppling so much at the front, whereas down the tail it's narrow, so you can topple it, so you can go rail to rail quite easily and turn faster, much faster than a normal longboard. The material too that it's made out of is awesome. This SLX, super lightweight epoxy. I've seen that used on some of Weber's old boards too, and it's really strong, light stuff. I've banged this many times, and it's really held up to the dings and the hits quite well. Later on, Meyerhoffer started making them out of different materials. That's why I sort of like the older ones. If you see one of these, the old school Meyerhoffers, yeah, I really encourage you to grab it, because they're getting harder to find. It brings us to the bottom. So he's not only sprinkled his Meyerhoffer funkiness over the shape, the overall template. He's also done some things to the bottom surface, which I think are also important and work with the overall shape and approach of the board. So, from what I can tell, he's sort of got a single concave here, and that allows the water to come in underneath and start flowing underneath the board. And then it's gone to sort of a double concave, and which then forms, I'll flip the board, sorry, because the board's so long, I didn't use my board rack that I normally use for your reviews and whatnot. So you've got a very pronounced hull here. It's not a V, which is pointy so much, points like in a pointy ridge. It's a rounded sort of convex hull here. And it starts very gently. You get the two concaves sort of down the side, which direct water towards these fins. I'll talk a bit more about them in a minute. But yeah, this hull here, this sort of convex hull, which goes all the way down, all the way to the back, right to the tail here, I believe that really helps with the board's ability to go rail to rail very quickly. And I think it's an integral part of the board. If you take off on a steep wave, or if you're drawing out a nice turn, this ability for the board, such a long board, to go rail to rail quickly and maintain control in critical situations, I think it's very important, and it helps the board become a successful mini mal or mal if you're on the 9-foot version. So very impressive, and a lot of people balk at the shape. I think it's fantastic. I really like how he's thought outside the square, and it has approached it differently and has come up with something which I believe performs much better than the normal longboard / mini mal shape. So if I was to get a 7.6 longboard, I believe this would be up there and would definitely give the longboard a run for its money any day. It's very light and easy to carry, very strong. It paddles really well, and it's just so manoeuvrable. You're really surfing off from around here to here. When you're doing tight turns, and it turns really tight, which is a problem for some people when they're learning to ride a longboard. This thing turns really tightly for such a long piece of fiberglass or foam. It's fantastic, and it's quite stable for nose riding as well. I haven't ridden the 9-foot, but the 9-foot version, but I imagine it would be just as fun to ride. So, just touching on these fins here. These are special saw fins. These are fins called the Hornets by Greg from Saw Fins on the New South Wales south coast of Australia. I went and saw him and had a chat, and we sort of came up with these fins, I've heard a lot of good things about them, and so I've got these little hornets. They stick out at an angle more. They've got quite a funny shape too, like the hornet wings, I guess. And they're designed to sort of grip the wave face in hollower waves. They sort of stick out to the side a bit and allow more hold. So I've been experimenting with them. I've also used just a normal longboard fin and 2 sort of side fins as well, which also works really well. The only reason I've got these in is because I was just trying to see how I could maximise my time on this board. So, like I said, very fun board, very unusual, but yeah, I love it. I honestly think everyone should ride a board like this at least once. I believe it's helped me become much more proficient on a longer board. It's allowed me to have much more fun when the waves are really small or harder to get into. This allows me to roll into them nice and easy and early, and experiment a lot more. It teaches you a lot more about how boards work, and makes you think a little bit about where your weight placement is on a board. And I honestly don't know why more people are not riding these boards. I don't want to gush too much, but they're that good. They really are that good. If you see a second-hand Meyerhoffer like this shape, grab it. I don't think you'll regret it. The one thing I did find that you've got to watch out for is if you stand here, roughly here near the hip, it can get a bit of a wobble happening side to side, which you might like, I don't know. But I've found the best places to stand are here and back here, like a surfboard. Here for a short board, and run up to the nose for a bit of longboarding, nose riding and cruising up the front. I've just found it's a little bit, it gets a bit of a pendulum effect sometimes, but that could just be me too. This is also handy, this hip here is also handy for grabbing when you're duck diving and things like that. And it's also sort of keeps that width out of your way when you're paddling, if you've got shorter arms as well. He really has thought about it and come up with a great little board that, yeah, I will keep this until it falls apart. And if it does, I'll be looking for another one. He does have a range of other boards out now that came out a bit later. They've got sort of like mesh bottoms and things like that, but I haven't tried any of those. But I really like this. His original first longboard creation. This is 7.6. There's a 9 foot. As I said, if you see any of those, give them a go, or grab them if you see them second hand. Alright, so that's about it for the Meyerhoffer today. I just thought I would share my thoughts about this interesting board. If you've ridden one, let us know in the comments if you like them, if you don't like them, that sort of thing. If this was helpful to you, this review was helpful, hit like. And if you want to see more reviews, tips, handy hints, whatever I come up with that I think might be handy for surfers and bodyboarders, yeah, just hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time here on Kook Shed. Cheers, thanks for dropping in.